Guten Morgen! Willkommen! Last time, you saw pretty much this happen. The thing that I'm holding here. I'm at the row on the skirt where we're about to get a little bit more complicated. So I'm going to show you guys that. And then after that, I think what we have left are the veil and the little rosettes that I see here. So the easy part of the bride is done. Well, easy comparatively speaking. And we just have the accessories today. So we're basically going to channel our inner Coco Chanel and give her some accessory, like give her the veil and the rest of the skirt. So when I was reading the instructions here, fourth row has two thing in asterisk, which in a knitting pattern, when they have in crochet patterns, when they have things in asterisk, it's like we want you to do this one little section and then keep repeating it. So it's like 2M Rex Susemmenster and then 1U, and that's the continue, ending with one stitch. So it seems like it's going to be a little bit off. But I saw that like same word, the Susemmenster, in when I was doing the bun and I had to decrease the hair. Like when I was doing this part, I had to decrease the hair. So I'm pretty sure that's decrease. And then, so they're like, make two stitches together that way. And then one U is an abbreviation for Umschlag, which, given the picture here, where I'm creating these little holes, I'm pretty sure Umschlag is a yarn over. Like 99% sure. So basically we just decrease like this, yeah? And then we do the yarn over and then decrease. And what this has the lovely effect of doing is by knitting two together and then automatically doing yarn over, I don't actually decrease the amount of stitches that I'm doing. I'm just inserting lace work into the work, yeah? So I'm giving it this nice effect that, because now when I knit this stitch, there's going to be a hole in the work. And it's decorative. The difficult part is hoping that the stitches are all spaced so that way and on the part where the yarn over isn't very awkward, which I'm thinking might be more difficult now. Yeah. So you can see here, I did this. I'm going to do a yarn over, but now I got one stitch on one needle and one stitch on the other needle that I'm going to be putting together. So this is when we do a little transference here. There we go. I got two stitches on the needle. And now it wants me to do like a yarn over on the first stitch, which, I mean, I did that with another project of mine, so you can easily do a yarn over just like that, even if there's no other stitch blocking it, because the needle should still hold the yarn over. Quite honestly. There we go. I also tucked in the end on the other side. Like I just reached on the other side and wove in the end that was short from the skirt because it was bothering me. And it was starting to unwind on me. And that was like, no, please don't. Also, I'm going to be left with a lot more yarn than I was expecting. Like, I am definitely not going to be applying yarn chicken by the time I start the Braut gum. Which, to be honest, I didn't know how much patience I would have for the bride. So I started with the bride first in case this ends up being a Lizzo situation where the bride holds a wedding for herself. But I considering how quickly this all went, and this is going to be the hard part, I think the Braut and Gam is going to happen at this point. This is going to be a 2 stuffed animal thing. Or stuffed human thing. I mean, humans are animals, technically. But we don't typically refer to ourselves as such. Unless we're singing songs about our sexual desires. But that's a whole nother story. That's neither here nor there at this moment in time. I think the last time I remember wearing a white dress for a special occasion was my first communion. We borrowed a dress from somebody else. And like I remember the 2 girls I was sitting in between had floofier dresses than mine. So like I just had like I had a very nice dress on, but they had like the princess cupcake dresses, and as we sat down, their dresses just flounced onto mine, and it's like, oh, okay. Of course, that was not the point of First Communion, but I mean, like, shortly after that, like, in general, I'm not a big fan of wearing white because most of the time when I wear something white, it gets stained, and especially if it's all white, there's a very short amount of time between I own a thing that is white versus I now own a thing that is tie-dyed. Many of my white objects became tie-dyed, like, not just shirts, although there was, like, shirts. When I left the job I left before this one, I no longer needed to wear an undershirt with my job. All those white undershirts became tie-dyed. But I also did that for underwear too, because I mean, as a girl, we have periods. You're not always successful in getting the blood out. Tie-dye hides the blood really well. There's also some socks. And like there have been some, like the last time I did tie-dye, I did it on the floor of my bathroom because the tile would have been easy to wipe up. And it was just like, how can I do this without making a mess? And it was like almost surgical. Like I had the plastic down, I had the gloves on, I changed the gloves when they got too wet, when they got too dirty. It's like, we're going to make sure that everything is how it's supposed to be. Oh my gosh. And there we go. Like it's hard to imagine my own wedding in the future, because I feel like in order to imagine a wedding, you have to imagine who, like, it largely depends on who you're getting married to. Yeah, like it largely depends on like the personality of the person you're getting married to, depends on like what you decide to have at the wedding or not, because you want it to be enjoyable for the both of you. And it's very hard to imagine things in the future if you don't know who you're going to be with when you're imagining them. Which means the only detail I've really imagined about my wedding is what I'm going to be wearing. Because that's really the only thing that will be the same regardless of who my marry is. The fact that I'm going to be the other person in the party, yeah? So, with 14, now that we did the 14, we're going to knit it. Okay. So, I feel like that is one of the few events in my life that I would actually be wearing a dress. most of the time I wear pants. I just feel a lot more comfortable in pants. And I keep putting myself in scenarios where pants are the better option. But I don't necessarily see that dress as being white. Because, hey, it's my dress. Like, it can be whatever color I want. Now, I also have I recently went to a funeral, and because it was going to be cold out, I was getting, like, a suit ready. I have a nice collection of blazers. I love wearing a blazer. In fact, the last time I was a bridesmaid at a wedding, I wore a blazer. I wore a fancy dress. But I also wore a blazer. And I looked amazing, let me tell you. It was my sister's wedding. So my sister-in-law got married Palm Sunday weekend. And the year that they got married, so they wanted all the Easter colors. So their color scheme was pastel rainbow. And like comparatively speaking, when it comes to being part of wedding parties, that was relatively chill. Because they're like, okay. Well, first they called us bride minions as part of the bridal party because not everyone was cisgendered, but or identified with the binary gender. Paradigm. So they just called us bride minions because they were both brides, and it was a gender neutral term to describe the people in the party. And they were like, okay, you just have to choose something that you want to wear within this color scheme. Our color scheme is rainbow pastel. Wear whatever makes you feel comfortable. It's like, whatever looks good to you. And it's like, good. As a result, like the pictures, like they did that specifically because they noticed lots of wedding pictures tend to be dark and dreary. And they were like, we don't want that for our wedding. Another thing that I thought was a really good idea, because I mean, my sister-in-law is a very logistical, logical person. And, like she's very good at organizing and scheduling things and thinking of little details. So, one thing that she did was she had name tags made up for everyone who was attending the wedding. So, it's like the name tag had the person's name, their preferred pronouns, and their relationship to the brides. So, like in my case, it said like Becky, she, her, bride sister. It's such a smart idea, honestly. Like just recently, I went to visit my sister and sister-in-law where they live, and I got to see my sister's nephews when I was there. And I noticed they were calling my sister-in-law Gigi. And I was like, how did you come about that? And it turns out that was a name she put a lot of thought in. She's like, I don't like how aunt sounds with my name. And so, wait, 15. So now I do the pearl. Okay, I'm just making sure I didn't lose track because I can get distracted. All right. I didn't like how aunt sounded with my name. It sounded all stuffy. And I was trying to linguistically think. So it's, like, think this through linguistically. Like, you want the same syllable repeated over and over again. And something that they can easily pronounce, because my sister-in-law has a master's in linguistics. And then, like, she settled on Gigi. So when they talk to her, it's like, hey, it's Gigi. Which adorable. Yeah, I think I just hit the hardest part of the skirt. So now it just basically wants me to do the same. It wants me to do the same thing. where I have some sort of buffer space, and then I go around and I create the yarn overs. Like, you can kind of see the little holes now, yeah? If I put my finger here, it might be easier. It's not really increasing at this point. That's almost, with the double pointed needles in this right now, it kind of reminds me of a hoop skirt. Which, I mean, as a little kid, little kids know hoop skirts aren't practical. They know, like, they have to wear clothes that work with playing and rumble and tumbling. But if you're a little girl who loves looking at dresses like I did, the hoop skirt is like, oh my gosh, so pretty. It's like, it's also like, how does that work? Because, like, how do you sit down? How do you use the bathroom? Which other people on the internet have done a very good job in explaining said things. And I feel like it could have worked during COVID when we had to stay 6 feet away. If you wore like a hoop skirt, not that people did, but if you wore like a hoop skirt, you would automatically have that bubble of personal space. But although as the pandemic went on, I found the mask to be more effective than actually standing 6 feet away. Because when you work in a noisy warehouse and you're 6 feet away from a person, they have to yell to talk to you. You can't hear them. And while I will keep wearing the mask in places where I'm unfamiliar with, there were times, like, I was thankful whenever work lifted the mask restriction, because there were some people who I could not understand unless I could lip read them. Anyway, that was a left turn in the conversation there, wasn't it? Yeah, that wedding happened before COVID. Before we knew what COVID was. Which was good. It was nice that we were able to have that family event then. This may also sound a bit morbid, but I'm also grateful that my grandfather died before COVID. Dude was 85 when he died. He was in very poor health. I think there were a couple things he was waiting for, and then they happened, although he is an incredibly stubborn man. He died while mowing the lawn, which is not how I would like to go, but is totally on brand for him. Refusing to admit that, hey, you're old now, you need a wheelchair. But it's like we were able to get all the grandkids in the same room for the first time ever. Because that hadn't happened before. Usually there would be like one or two people. Often I would be one of the people who would not be able to make it to where the rest of the family was for like holidays. So we would usually get to the most but not all threshold there. But considering what COVID brought about, it was at least, like, if my grandfather was still alive when COVID was going on, I would have been deeply concerned about him catching it and him dying from COVID. And the fact that his funeral happened before COVID meant that we were able to get everyone off and we were able to give him a nice send-off, which if he had died during COVID, that would not have happened. Like, especially considering like the fact that one of my cousins got married during COVID, and she literally had to like slim her wedding down to just essential people because weddings were super spreader events and you want to minimize the amount of people in like one space to get COVID. And yeah, it's really weird now. It's like pre-COVID's another lifetime ago. Yeah, it's like at this point it's only like 3 years ago, but it still feels like a whole nother lifetime. Like that was a different person. Okay, so now I'm knitting again to get that pearl look. Okay. I think I'm set with where this dress is going to be. Yeah. I see how this is going now. Okay. So I think at this point, I'm going to at this point, I'm not really doing anything that I haven't already done on camera. Basically, I'm just going to be knitting. I'm going to be doing the yarn over row once more. And after that, we're going to do the schlier. I don't know how to pronounce it when there's like 3,000 a row. It's SCHLEIER, which translates to the veil, because that's the only thing I haven't knit yet. And that's the one thing that's going to be left. And then it's all the little rosettes, which I hope you have instructions for how to do little rosettes. Like actual picture instructions. If not, there are instructions in another one of the books. But I don't think it's I'm pretty sure it's not the other German book. Yeah, I'll be back. All right, so for the schlier, I have the first 4 rows in the color. It says gold, but I'm instead using the tan because that will be what's actually contrast against the bun. And now it wants me to switch to white, so we are going to switch to white. Let's tie it on and try to figure out, as long as it doesn't go like super far, you know. These yarn round cakes are like so round. It's almost like they're wheels. Oh, as I am stepping on zip ties down there through another failed project of mine, unless I pick it back up. But my problem is not having ideas. My problem is follow through on those ideas. So now it seems like it wants me to put a marker. Anyway, there's like, what I'm reading is like, Glasrechtstreet, dabei zur besten Orientierung in der 5 round Jules in einen Marker por und nach dem Mitchell im Anhangen und den entsprechenden Stellen in jeder Überhangen. I don't know what any of that means. But there's nothing about doing anything different as far as I can tell, so I'm just going to do like 2 rows of knit, because I'm assuming that's what it is. We'll find out. Although the good news is, I can tell from the abbreviation, it just wants me to do a row and not a round, which means I can just stick to the 2 needles, which is nice. Very nice. Also, I currently do not have a row marker for me because things got chaotic. I I mean, there is a row marker in front of me, but I'm working on 2 projects at once, and it's currently on the other project. So you know what? On the other project, I'm on row 59, so I can switch this to now say 5. We have a record. Actually, I'm currently on row 5, so can't believe Thanksgiving's going to be next week. Now, with the way that things are, I'm probably going to end up releasing this after Thanksgiving, but we'll see. Past month and a half has been a combination of another lifetime and wow, that went so fast. I mean, I'm working on a fail right now. It's funny, like, I still have the fail for my first communion because growing up, Mom was like, you can save the fail and also use it for your wedding. And I don't even know if I'm going to have a wedding, to be honest, but I can already tell you, if I have a wedding, that fail is not going to be my fail. I liked it at the time, but no, we're going to go more out. I don't even know if I even want a veil. Or if I do have a fail, we're going to go more overboard. I have considered having a cape over having a fail. There we go. So that's our 6th row. So now for the 7th. It wants me to make a stitch. Oh, then knit 2 together, yarn over until the end. I'm supposed to have 21 stitches at the end of this. We're going to find out if the math works. Because I don't see any part that says add. I just see, like, you do the 2 stitches and then it's like the same. We'll find out. I have 19 on the needle right now. So it wants me to make 1, then knit 2 together. I think it wanted me to put stitch markers in that last row, but meh. Just meh. And I split the yarn. We don't want to split the yarn. Okay. It has gotten colder. I am not crazy. I like fall until we get like that huge chill. Once we get that huge chill, it's like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. I want to hibernate always. Although, kind of the funny thing about working nocturnally is I actually do get to see more sunlight than if I was working during the day, because sometimes I get to come to work or leave work when there is light, when the sun is like either going up or coming down. Where if I was working during the day, I would be in the building the entire time. Amazingly enough. I'm coming close to the end here. Oh, I got 2 stitches here. Oh. That's why there were stitch markers. Because at one point it wants me to reverse the way I do it. But I can't tell because there's only the one picture. And it's of the front and the veil is in the back. Wait a moment. I know a solution. Which means taking out what I already did. Okay. So so the closest even number to 19 is 18, yeah, which means 9 stitches. 3, 6, 9, 10. Ah, there we go. So at that middle row, do the yarn over. This is why there's a stitch marker, so you don't forget where the middle is. Okay. Oof. Guess the question is, when I count, will there be 21 stitches on the needle? 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 19. No, it's still 19, which means I did something wrong. Because there's supposed to be 21. Yeah, because I'm missing something here. I now have a better understanding of where the stitch markers are supposed to be, which is good. All right. I think once I figured this part out, it seems like the veil is getting progressively bigger as it goes on, and it seems to be increasing from the middle-ish, maybe? But there's like I don't understand. How am I supposed to have 21 at this point? Because if I make a stitch and I bring them together and whatnot, and around the middle, I still have, this part, the middle right here, I still have. So unless it wants me to add 2 more yarn overs without decreasing, that would be how I would get 2 more stitches. But I don't see the abbreviation for that. Unless this is... Oh, there's abbreviation Wiederholen? Oh, there's an abbreviation I don't understand. Which I would assume would be work both sides work both sides of the stitch, increase in that stitch. That would understand why I have two. Okay. In case you're wondering, like, what I'm struggling over, well, prevent you from trying it out, it's this paragraph right here. That's the paragraph I'm currently struggling over, with the instructions that are, like, slightly above it. Once again, I think we're going to have to take out the row. Because I need to increase somewhere in order to get the 21 stitches. Because clearly, I mean, this is part of what we're doing. Yeah. Third time's a charm, right? Or maybe it's a second full time because that last time was more like I only took out half of the stitches. Woo! All right. I could also just do my own thing and add a yarn over right at that part, except I don't think that's how that looks, because if you look at the veil, you can see the edge doesn't really grow. I think it grows from the middle. The edge is relatively straight in that regard. So, but you know what? That does look a little bit different. So we're going to work in the front and the back of that stitch. And now we're going to do the boom. Boom. Let me get some stitch markers on here because now I understand why they are important. Come on, blue. I want blue today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Just put it on either side of that middle stitch so we know. Yep. Oh, the stitch marker went through the row below. Okay. Also, I appear to have dropped a stitch. What? How have I dropped a stitch? Already? Oh, come on. Now somehow we make sense, but We split the yarn again. Okay. And I appear to have dropped that stitch too. Oh my gosh, how did that happen? I don't understand how these things happened. Now we're going to work in the front and back of that stitch. So I should have 21 on the needle now. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. Okay. I now have 21 on the needle. Fortunately, the 8th row, it just wants me to knit. Or purl. I can't tell because there's no back view of the bride. So I'm just going to treat this like it's all garter stitch. So that way it's easier to hide mistakes. Yeah. And we get that nice little lace work effect. Although we're somehow going to get a straight line of 3 down the middle somehow. Okay. Oh, it didn't want it at the end. It wanted it in the middle. Oh. I can make that change. Okay. I can very easily make that change. Okay. Which means the rest of the holes might be a little bit off kilter, but no one's going to notice except you guys because I just told you. So basically, instead of adding it here at the end, I add the extra stitches in the middle where I had these stitch markers, which means they make more sense that way, yeah. And then we do the, that stitch, and we're starting to get the hang of it now. And it would also prevent that, like, it would also just prevent a line of 3 stitches down the middle if they're constantly increasing from the middle, which makes sense with how the picture is. Now the problem is I may have knitted this too tightly and it's hard to stick the needle in. And part of me wanted to say that's what she said after I saw that, but I think that's mixing innuendos, maybe. So the 9th row I got to 23, and we eventually work our way up to 35 stitches on the needle. Okay. I think at this point, I'm going to continue this off camera just to make sure I really got it right. Because I think it's like relatively the same. I'll get back to when the instructions change again. I made progress on the veil. You can see it's starting to curve a little bit because I kept increasing in the middle. And then it has to stay on the needles that way. But I ended up having to tear this out and then redoing it because I still didn't get it. But I think I figured out how I was supposed to increase the stitches. So, feeling pretty happy about it now. And now I'm about to start row 23. And I think it wants me to keep on doing this. But it doesn't want me to increase any stitches. Which I can tell because it doesn't include any number on the end. If it was having me, like, I don't understand everything about this book, but what I do understand is that when I go from one row to another and the amount of stitches change, it includes the number of stitches on the back. Which means if it doesn't include the number of stitches on the back, then it stays the same. So that means I'm going to be on 35. So now I think I'm still doing like the yarn over bit. But I'm not doing it in a way that, well, there's still that abbreviation we're holding, but it's basically I need to make sure I'm not adding an extra stitch. Because I'm basically making sure I still do the yarn overs, but there's the same amount of stitches. So I have 35 here. Just make sure I stay on 35. So it's been having me do a stitch, then knit two together. That, then knit two together, then that, and by that I mean yarn over. I mean, it's hard to spread it out on the needle, but I'm hoping like I can make the holes a little bit more, provided the yarn doesn't make me sneeze first. I hope I can make the holes a little bit more noticeable. Sorry, I just had to take like a day off of work recently because I just wasn't feeling well. And it's like, let's just take the day off so it doesn't get any worse. And it ended up being the right option because fortunately it didn't get too much worse. I feel a bit better today. But I was in a scenario where I didn't have the energy to look at stupid videos on the internet. And I didn't have the energy to crochet. Which, if I don't have the energy to crochet, I'm pretty listless. It's bad. There are like a few events where it's like, okay, if I don't have the energy for this, it's bad. All right, so let me just count to make sure that I have enough. So on the other side, I have 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 17. So I should be on the path to keep 17 stitches on the needle. Yeah, so I got 3, 6, 9, 12, 14, 15, 16. Huh. I don't know. So now I'm at 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 16, 17. Oh. I know what I need to do. Okay. I still do that. And then I still do the yarn over. I get rid of the... I was like working on both sides of the stitch on either side of this, but I'm just going to do the yarn over and that will get me the effect I want. Because instead of just like increasing the stitch, I keep it the same, but I keep the stitches that are there, yeah. Yeah, like there was a time when I was studying abroad in Rome. I guess like sometimes the hard part can be knowing like when I've had enough. Like there's some scenarios where it's like, okay, I know I've had enough, I'm done. But some scenarios it's harder to tell. And there was like an event when I was studying abroad in Rome that should have alerted me to the fact that I had enough, but I didn't. So a friend of mine told me that that one of the vending machines in the school actually gave change for a €5 note, which is like, this is amazing. Then I can use that change in the other machines. So I wanted some gum. So I went to the vending machine to get some gum. And it's like, well, let me try to get change for this €5 note because that's the lowest note I have at the moment that can give me what I need. And so I put the €5 note in the vending machine and I did not get change back, and I did not get the €5 note back at that moment. I got it stuck in the machine. It's like, okay, that the note is like stuck in this like coin dispenser thingy, and I do not have gum, and I do not have my money. So I ended up having to tell. It turns out I tried it on the wrong machine, yeah. So I ended up having to tell like the student advisory person, like, hey, I broke the vending machine. That is my money in there. Please give it back to me. Which I did get it back the next day. And they're like, but that wasn't the clue that I had enough for the day. I was actually like hanging around because I wanted to go to a student event. But it became very clear that I was not, I think it was like about resumes or something like that. But it was very clear that I was not in the right mindset for that event when I went back to try to do my Italian homework, and I did not have the energy to translate sentences from Italian to English. And it's like, well, if you're living in another country and you do not have the energy to translate, it is time to go to bed. It is time to stop for the night. So I think I just went home and I got a pizza on the way home. And then I think the pizza was to go. I didn't eat the pizza there. And then I kind of relaxed for the evening, and I was back to normal the next day. All right, so that should still be 35 stitches on the needle. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 35. Yes, okay. And then the next stitch, next row just wants me to knit all the stitches. And that's how we keep the yarn overs and get it all set up for next time. So it wants me to do this for at least another 15 or so more rows, which is nice. It'll be a nice longish veil for her, which will be very nice. But this veil is literally the hardest part of the doll. And that is including threading the stitches through the piece of work to add the skirt. This is the hardest part so far. And I've done yarn overs before. It's just, I don't know why. It's just this has been the hardest part. And that's okay. Anyway, I'll be back. I finished the veil. Or by finished, I mean I finished knitting it. I still have to weave in ends and whatnot. And I still have to attach it to the bride, which it's going to be something like this. I can kind of tell which part is supposed to be facing out and which part is supposed to be in. So we got that going on. So I think after I attach the veil, what I literally have left to do is I have to attach these little rosette things. And I gotta sew it all together. So I gotta get like the sewing, I gotta stuff it, obviously. And then I gotta put in the sewing marks to have the body look like a body and not just a sock. And with the roses, I mean, this is the only picture they have of the couple. So what I have left to explain everything else is this mini essay, which, given my track record for how much I've been able to understand, I expect to generously understand 1/8 of what that stuff is telling me. I know there's numbers. But fortunately, when it comes to the rosettes, like I've been having this part folded out. If I fold this in, boom, tells me how to sew it. So as long as I just follow the pictures, I can kind of get the rosettes and then I can just wing the leaves. And then the bride should be done. So the next time I'm going to turn this on for the bride, we will have a finished lady. All right. You ready? You ready? Really? All right. Bum, bum, ba, bum, 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 ba, bum, 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 ba, bum, bum, ba, bum, bum, ba, bum. Here is our lovely Braut. And you can see the legs are split as best they can. We have the little flower rosettes. The veil is sewn on. Her arms are there. I had to redo her arms because the original way that the book told me to do it made the wrong part stick out. And I was like, no, let's make the arm stick out in a better way. So although I'm not crazy about how it's causing the yarn to stretch the way that I sewed it, but it is what it is. It's kind of cute. But, so this is the picture. This is my Braut. I am relatively close. It's not an exact match. But you can tell what I was trying to do, yeah? So yeah, we have our, she's very soft. Very, like, smooth. And, like, I was actually playing, I kind of saw that more as the front, except for the fact that this had the white underlying it. But now that I have the other part facing the front, it makes more sense. And I'm really glad I did the rosette there because that just happened to be the perfect amount of like space to take up because this stuffing did not let this go all the way around. And I do actually have eyeshadow now. I could have like rouged up her cheeks, but nah. Let's make this more washable. So the next time you guys watch a German translating video, we're going to make her buddy. We're going to make the broom. Well, I think the groom and bride are more than buddies. We're going to make her significant other. But until then, that was today's entertainment. Have a nice day. Auf Wiedersehen.